Global War 36 enthusiast here with a video comparing the version 4 map to the old version 3 map. We've been playing with the new version 4 and now we've got 4.1 maps, and I just wanted to remind people who played with version 3 and tell players who never saw version 3 some of the changes that I really appreciate with the version 4 and 4.1 maps. The first is there were changes that were made here to the land zones in the Soviet Union, and the net effect is that it gave one more land zone between Poland or Bessarabia, or actually they didn't even have Bessarabia, but between Romania and Moscow, or Poland and Moscow, and that helps the survivability of Russia in version 4 and 4.1. Orel Kursk is no longer the be-all end-all like it was in version 3. You'd really want just that one territory stacked up. It's a good territory. Orel Kursk is a key territory, but it's not as key as it was in version 3. It was really the one and only zone to defend for the Soviet Union's in version 3. So I love that correction. That's very important for gameplay in the Soviet Union. Another key factor were changes that were made here in the Pacific. In version 3 in the Pacific, there was one less sea zone between San Francisco and Hawaii. So now you can't get to Hawaii in one move from San Francisco. Now it's 2. And in version 3, there was one quickest path from Hawaii to Tokyo. But in version 4 and 4.1, there are 4 equal paths. And sea zones P43, these sea zones here, 43, 44, 45, and 46, create these long channels east to west that allow for a lot of movement. I know I got pounced on in the Marshall Islands. My friend Panzer J recently got pounced on in the Marshall Islands. So there's a lot of mobility and variability in how the war can be fought out in version 4, 4.1. The one huge change was the Mediterranean. I don't know if people remember, but there were only two sea zones in version 3, whereas now there's these 3 sea zones, and Malta is right in the middle here of M4. So there's a lot of, there's more opportunities to have battles rather than all your ships in one key sea zone, although M2 is still a really important sea zone that's frequently a point of contention. In version 3, those convoy lines used to end in Egypt. This is a really interesting thing because in version 3 there was an optional rule that you could divert your convoy lines around the the Cape of Good Hope. You could send it down around the south of Africa, but now you can't do that. This is important for gameplay balance. If the Allies, or if the Axis capture Lower Egypt, that's going to have tremendous economic impact on the Allies, not only because Africa might fall, but also because there's easy convoy raiding, and then planes that convoy raid can drop back in southern Egypt, in Lower Egypt, or you could even build a sub base and have them sally out. So another similar thing about the interesting convoy implications were changes that were made up here in Norway. Norway was kind of dead in version 3, but there's a lot of viability to the play in Norway in version 4, 4.1. And it has to do with this North Sea line and also with wartime bonus income. So if you capture northern Norway, you get 2 extra bonus income as Germany. And if you hold Norway, then you can also protect this North Sea line. You could either put a seaplane up here, or you could have ships that go back into port in Narvik. So you could protect, it makes it easier for you to protect these 2 points. And what that does is kind of creates a 6 IPP swing in Norway because you can protect the line. That's 2. You get 2 points for the land zones, and then you get the bonus 2 income. So Norway is really seeing more action in version 4.1. Another key thing is here the changes that were made in China. If you remember back to version 3, this was all Yunnan, all the way up here. It touched all the way up to Qinghai. And so Yunnan was similar to the Orel-Kursk, a one and only zone that you could not only build your forces in as a defensive position, but also as a territory to project power into a huge number of territories. So now that they've added in Xikang, or I actually think this is called Xikang, they've added this territory in. There's a couple interesting things about this. One is that the rivers travels all the way to Tibet, so that creates some potential for strategic rail. And then that if you want to, after you've used Yunnan as a defensive fallback position in the mountains, when you want to start projecting power, you have a lot of different dilemmas with the KMT. You could go into Kwangtung, but then you're on the coast. You could go up to Qichao, which threatens Hunan. You can go all the way up to Szechuan, which threatens a number of territories, but then you're away from Yunnan. So they've really made China much more interesting. Then there's just some quality of life things that I want to mention, even though these aren't necessarily strategic in basis. That is that in version 4.1, Europe has been enlarged, and that really helps with your quality of life as far as space to put your units. It's much better than it was in version 3. And then Africa is also really shrunk down, which is just fine because you don't need much space down in Africa. I've never run out of space here in Africa. I really think I salute that decision, even though it doesn't quite, it's not geographic, but it's great as far as gameplay. I want to salute HBG for the beautiful ocean floor topography. Just look at that. I mean, this map is absolutely gorgeous. Let's go look off the coast of Japan and take a look at that. It's really great. You can see why they call it the Ring of Fire. And one of the things I really most love about the 4.1 map is the Great Barrier Reef. I mean, they really, it's really stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. This map comes in both the regular standard rondelles, and then what this one is the flag rondelles. So I'm really happy that I know there were some growing pains going with a new map, but it's definitely improved the strategic play of the game. It's absolutely stunning, and I highly recommend, if you're going to play a Global War 1936, I cannot see why you wouldn't just go straight to 4.1. Highly recommended.